It is Saturday, friends, and you guys know what that means. It is time for another top 10 Saturday of manga, specifically shoujo and josei manga. Hello friends, happy Saturday. So excited you guys are here, and I'm really excited because I was totally blown away how much you guys loved last week's top 10 video. Last Saturday I featured 10 shoujo and josei titles, digital titles that I would love to see printed, and I hope that you guys really enjoy this video as well. But first, I would love to do a shout out to Oddlaw Student who asked if I could do a shoujo romance recommendation video, and it's so great because when I was brainstorming the videos for this month, I needed one more top 10 video, and I was like, I don't know what to do, and her comment came at just the right moment. So this video is inspired by her comment. I am going to feature 10 shoujo romances that I feel are underrated, though I do have one josei title that I put in here. I am just going to say right now, I am basing underrated just off of what I feel that I don't see many people talk about in the shoujo community or just the manga community in general. You may see a lot more people who talk about this series, and I know one of them right now I have been seeing pop up more often on Twitter, but as a whole, I'm like, I don't really know many people who have read this series, or maybe they have read them, but not many people are talking about them. So I tried to think of some underrated shoujo romances that I really feel that other people should check out. I sort of broke them down into pairs, so we're gonna just see how it goes. But for one of the most underrated stories that I know of, that I absolutely love, that makes me sad that it's actually going digital at this point, is Library Wars, Love and War. This is the manga that got me hooked on manga. I love this manga so much. I feel like this is a shoujo that is perfect for the reader that really doesn't know what they want. They're like, I like romance, I like action, I like a little bit of politics, I like a little bit of drama. I really just want maybe a mix of everything. Library Wars has your back. I have not done a video review on this series just yet, but next year I am fixing that. But majority of everything else, minus two other ones because they only have one volume, everything else I'm featuring today has been featured on this channel and does have a video review. I'm gonna leave a list of all of the reviews I have done for all of my picks rather than leave them up in like the corners like I usually do. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that before I forget, but Library Wars is such a special story to me. I really feel, like I said, that it's great just for any manga reader that wants a mix of everything, not just where the story is purely focused on the romance. So the romance is so good, and it's an enemies to lover. It absolutely devoured it in this series. I really need to do a video review and gush about this. I am well past the time that I should have reread it, and I have reread like different volumes occasionally here and there, but reading from volume 1 all the way to the end, I still have not done yet, and I need to fix that. So again, this is a series that I just feel like is perfect for just anyone and everyone, just because that's how much I love it. For number 2, I'm really excited for this one because I just did the video review this week, and that is From Far Away. This is another series that was available physically, but now it's basically gone digitally. Same with Library Wars 2. You can definitely find Library War volumes, but you're probably going to be paying a lot, the same way as From Far Away. This is another series that I feel like if you're like, I really don't know what I want, or you want something more that's just romance, this has it all as well. It is a wonderful story. In fact, Izark and Noriko, which I did say in that video review, is the ultimate shoujo ship, but one of the ultimate shoujo ships as well is Iku and Dojo. I love and adore these series so much. They have such special places in my heart. I don't know what it is about Noriko and Izark and their story, but it wrecked me, but in a really good way. I cried at the end just because I was so moved and touched by their story, and just both of these series are like all-time favorites for me. And apparently I need to make that a video because I never thought about like what are my all-time favorites until recently, just the other day, and now I'm like, yes, like there are series, they're all-time favorites, and both of these are on it, and I feel like they're just so underrated, especially From Far Away. And I think it's just because it's digital only, but I'm like, this is a classic isekai shoujo manga. It has such wonderful themes that are so thought-provoking, and there's just certain tropes that I have not seen. Like usually in isekai manga, when somebody gets isekai, they already know the language in this new place. Noriko does not know the language language in this new place at all. So again, if you're looking for a series where it has the romance, the politics, the drama, the action, the adventure, which Library Wars also has, I forgot to mention that. Lots of really great action in that series too. Then both of these series I really feel would be such a strong contender of series like you need to read, you need to check out, because it, just like I said, has all of those different elements. So it pulls, maybe not pulls, but I feel like it can just be interesting to any kind of reader that may be like, well, I'm not a huge romance fan, but I am a big action fan. Bam, these series have your back. Obviously, this is underrated shoujo romances, so it does have the romance, but it's in neither one of these stories, it's not the main focus, but the romance, when you get it, is totally worth it. It's a slow burn, it's everything. Though this series is not enemies to lover. Well, yes and no. It's complicated. It's complicated. And I forgot to mention that with majority of these series, I'm not going to go in depth about what the book's about. Just be sure to check out the video reviews down below, though I'll leave a link for Library Wars since I should have actually gone into what that book is about. But From Far Away, I feel is so deeply underrated, and it's such a fantastic and moving series that I'm like, I need more people to know about it and I need them to read it. For number 3, I'm also really excited about this one because the commenter mentioned that she loves age gap manga. I have not read much age gap manga, but I do love this age gap manga, and that is Takane and Hana. This one's probably not hugely underrated, not in the same way as Library Wars and From Far Away, but I do feel that the age gap is something that a lot of people are very leery of, so they don't often pick up Takane and Hana. I confess I was one of those people, and then I got it from my library, read volume 1. The humor is so good, and just our main characters are amazing that I was like, I need this. I need this. So I went and asked my husband, I think it was sometime last year, I'm like, can I please just buy the rest of the series, because I know this is a series that I'm gonna love, I'm gonna come back to. And facts, that is indeed what happened. I started reading it earlier this year, or not earlier this year, a few months ago or a month ago. I love it. If you need something that is funny and doesn't take itself seriously, Takane and Hana, this is the series. It is so funny. I feel like this is probably one of the funniest series I've ever read. I really enjoyed it. It does have some deeper moments where you're like, my heart right now. Like, there is some good character growth that I really enjoyed. It hurt, but I did enjoy it, and I don't have the video review of this one up yet. I believe, based off my calendar for the 25 days of shoujo and josei manga, I have this one coming the second to last week of this month, but the review is coming. For number 4, it's actually a digital manga title, and it's another one that I have a video review coming out the second to last Friday, I believe, of this month, and that is My Darling Next Door. Oh my goodness, I love this series so incredibly much. It is another age gap manga, though it's a much smaller age gap. It is everything. I love the characters in this series so much. It's not as funny, but I feel like our main girl, Ririka, is so full of sunshine and passion and fun and lightheartedness that she is a beautiful and wonderful character to follow in this series, because she feels like there's something wrong with her because she's not having a crush on anybody in high school. She's never had her own romance until the young businessman next door moves in, and she starts rethinking all of that. It is so beautiful. It is a slow burn, beautiful unfolding of a relationship. I really, really resonate with this story just on a personal level because I'm also in an age gap marriage, and so Ririka and I have a similar, like the age gap is very, very similar, and so I really love just the unfolding of their romance. This is a beautiful romantic contemporary story that I'm just like, I need more people to read. I feel like it is highly underrated because it is digital. There's not a lot of drama that takes place in this series, and it was something I appreciated. There's no love triangles or anything like that. It's just really Ririka growing as a character and the interactions that she has with Hinochi, who is the business salaryman, that I really just enjoyed very much. It was one of the series that I read, and then literally once I finished the final volume, I went back and reread the series. I very much love this one, and again, it's such an underrated romance. For number 5, this one I definitely feel is very underrated. I only know one other person, 2 other people that have read it, and that is Kimono Confiserie. If you are needing something with sweets and food, this series is it. It has a very interesting premise where it's a romance, yes, but I don't feel like the It's complicated because I feel like this is more of a lighthearted romance, because this is also another short series, and I do have a video review of this one up, and I did wish that the romance unfolded a little bit differently at the end, but I love this series as a whole very, very much. It's sort of like an enemies to lovers, because more or less Kimomo here, this young man here, his name is Natsu, was basically, he worked for her family growing up. And so yeah, 10 years later, the tables have turned where Kimomo's more or less been kicked out of her house. Natsu takes her in, and he's sort of getting, okay, it doesn't use the word revenge, but I feel like it's almost like a low-key revenge story, because he makes Kimomo's life so hard and so difficult. And I do think that's something to be aware of in this first volume, that some people felt that he bullies her, and I didn't necessarily feel he bullies her. But I'm like, Natsu, did you really need to be that mean or that harsh to Kimomo? But Kimomo is so sweet. She honestly is like a queen in this series, and I love her attitude and her cheerfulness and how she gets excited about the little things, and really how the romantic relationship blooms and grows in this series. It's definitely a romance, but I don't feel it's a strong highlight. I feel like the food aspect is one of the best parts of the series. Though this series is great if you're looking for a heroine that hasn't fallen in love before, and so she's sort of learning what is love to a degree. Not the same way like as in Strobe Edge, where Ninako is going to learn what is love. It's not asking the question the same way as that series does, but Kimomo doesn't really get quite love, I feel like, in a way, and she enters into a relationship and discovers what it means to be in a relationship and have feelings for someone, to have your heart broken, and to fall in love with somebody else. So it has that kind of storyline, and I think if you enjoy that, again with the sweets aspect, that this is one that needs to be read and checked out. It's another one I would definitely recommend. It's one I've read a few times, not full completion, but I really enjoy the story quite a bit, and I think it's a very sweet shoujo romance. I'm like, it's definitely underrated, and it needs to be on this list today. For number 6, this is my only JOSEI title, and that is We Swore to Meet in the Next Life, and That's When Things Got Weird. This series is only 3 volumes, and it took me by a storm. I devoured it all in one day. So good. It is an isekai. Well, it's not really an isekai. I forget that the word that they used it, but these two knew each other in their past life. Yuko, I believe was her name. Yeah, Princess Yuko was a princess, Harold was a knight, and they never could be together. You could see them right here because of the massive class difference. And so they say, when we come back in the next life, let's look for each other and hopefully have the happy ending that they always wanted. And here they are in the contemporary real world. They find each other, but there's this huge, I should mention this for the age gap as well. There's this huge age gap between them. She's 39, he's 17. Do not be like, oh my goodness, that is an age gap. It is handled so beautifully and so well. This series is so sweet and so very beautiful. I loved it so much. Oh my goodness, it is a precious gem, and the romance is very beautiful, and I love how it's, even though they know each other, they're also different people now because of how they're in the real world, and how he's a high school student and she is a business worker. I forget where she works, but because of their new roles in this life, they are a little bit of different people, and they don't know everything about each other. They have to re-know and relearn one another. Even though Harold's love for Yuko has not changed, and her love for him has not changed either. It is, it's so beautiful. It's so worth seeing the payoff of their romance and the hurdles that they overcome, and the thoughtfulness that goes into their decisions because of that age gap was very moving and very unexpected. I loved it so much. I did cry at the end because you get some backstory, and I was just like, oh my goodness, it is so sweet. I've also reread this a few times because I love the characters. I love the characters so much, and the story, their love story specifically, is everything. It's very beautiful. It's very wonderful. For number 7, I am so excited to feature this one because I definitely feel this is another underrated series, and if you like music-based stories, Anonymous Noise is one I would highly recommend checking out. I read this at the beginning of this year thanks to a friend's recommendation, and it blew me away. It's one of the first music-based stories I've read. I have read When We Shout for Love. I do a video review of that, but I can't remember if I read that this year or last year. But Anonymous Noise was amazing. If you enjoy having love triangles triangles with two really compelling main leads for different reasons, and one that I think takes you on very much the emotional roller coaster and adventure, because I definitely went back and forth quite a few times on this series of which guy I wanted to win. It is definitely a very romantic tale because Nino is basically singing for, his name is Momo, for her childhood best friend, but that is also when she meets, well, she had met him beforehand, but she also re-meets this guy named Yuzu, and that is when all of the romantic drama starts to unfold. There's a lot of different feelings involved. I feel like I keep saying it's dramatic, but I don't feel in a bad way. This story was super gripping, and I was very much wanting to know who Nino was going to choose. Was she going to choose Momo, or was she going to choose Yuzu? I had to make sure I had his name right, because the things that happened, and then you throw in the music, it just got me so excited. I could hear the music in my head and how it was affecting Nino and her music. It is so good. So if you definitely love love triangles that are going to just pull you in deep, because I think this series is like 18 volumes, and again, where you're just unsure of who she's going to choose, go read this. I know a few volumes are out of stock right now because I have wanted to collect it because I really enjoyed it, and I could see myself rereading it because I love the characters like everyone. And if you're also like, well, I want the main girl to get with somebody, but I like when the friends get with people, this does have that kind of story as well, or those kind of spin-offs stories within this series. Try to think of how to say that I also really enjoyed one of the other romances that takes place. It was so good and absolutely loved it. So this is one that I'm like, I don't really know many people who have read it, who have picked it up, who have enjoyed it. I know it has an anime. I have not seen the anime, but it's been very exciting to see somebody that I follow on Twitter. They have been picking up the volumes, and I'm like, yes, it is an underrated shoujo manga that just has not a little bit of everything, but just the romance and the suspense, no, the angst, I should say, that's a better word, the angst that comes from that romance, and then the music. It's a very compelling love story that I really enjoyed. For number 8, I feel this is underrated. I feel like it's not as underrated as it was, so I'm sort of gonna say if the anime wasn't coming out, it's pretty underrated, and that is Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. When I first heard about this, and I just did a recent video review, and I know the anime has come out, I had only known Shay at Shay Geeks Out, who had read this series, and I really enjoyed it. Like, she did a video, and I'll leave it here, gushing about how much she loved this series, and I was just like, okay, I need this series in my life, and it is so good. It is so good. If you like having a story where you have animal-like creatures, this is it. This is it. I love the whole cast of characters. This is a kind of romance story where they get together early on, so if you prefer that and you know, like, okay, we don't need to worry about love triangles and such, this is definitely one of those. The love is very deep and secure and sure, so there's never that fear of, wonder if they don't get together. That's never an issue in this series, thankfully, because your girl here struggles with love triangles and the angst that comes with those love triangles. What makes this story, I feel like, a very great series is that yes, it has that romance. I love that romance very much, but the themes, this series hits some really big and deep topics, and I love how our main couple discusses those topics. There's nothing that's gonna get like swept under the rug, and when a character tries to, the other one's like, no, what are you doing? We're not going to do this kind of thing today. They lift each other up, and again, just those conversations that they have about, sometimes it's about racism or prejudice within the series, or sometimes it's about one another, and just there's certain romantic moments that are super romantic, and it's just like, oh my goodness, I'm blushing a little bit because this is just so sweet, and so, maybe sweet's not quite the right word because it's deeply moving and very compelling. So I feel like this is a more deeper and mature kind of romance and story. It's still 13 up. There's no gore or anything like that. But I just feel like the topics are more of a mature conversation than typically I have seen in shoujo manga. Like, we're not worrying about, does he love me or does he not? Or how do I get with them? Or sort of like what we talked about earlier with other series of what is love? No, that love's secure, and that helps open up where these deep conversations can take place, and also the impact that we ourselves have on other people and our partners. It is a very good series that I would highly recommend. I'm also hoping that it is considered underrated to other people, not just me. Like I said, I feel like before the news about the anime came out that it was very much under the radar, and I'm very happy like after reading that it's coming back on that radar because it deserves the love and the hype and the attention. For number 9 and number 10, if you're looking for something new and not a completed series, because I believe all of the titles I featured today are already completed. They've been out for some time or they recently just finished wrapped up, but these last two are series that just released this year. And for this first one, I'm going to do Hi, I'm a Witch and My Crush Wants Me to Make a Love Potion. So originally this was not on my list for underrated shoujo because I actually felt influenced by the manga community to pick up this series earlier this year, but recently when I was at a live stream that my friend Carrie hosts and we were talking about different shoujo manga, just different manga in general, because this was one of my picks for that top 5 Wednesday that night, I was surprised to see that only me and Nick were the only two had read this series. And I'm like, well, maybe this is a little bit more under the radar than I anticipated, because again, I feel like on Instagram specifically, a few friends had picked it up and they influenced me to pick it up. But then I thought about it and said, well, I don't really see anybody talking about it on Twitter. I don't believe it had like a lot of reviews on Goodreads. And I'm like, you know what? Let's feature it because this is a super slow burn story. If you were looking for something where the romance doesn't kick off right away, where you really get to know the heroine and you get to know her backstory, this is it. Oh my goodness. This story is so sweet and so wonderful. Originally, when I first read it, I do confess, because a few friends might be like, well, Laura, you told me you didn't love it at first. I liked it at first, but I came in with this expectation that I was like looking for that romance immediately, and it doesn't quite happen like that. So if you're looking for a romance where you're like, I don't want it pushed on me right away, I want a slow building up, I want to get to know the hero as well, this series is it. It's so moving. It's a very beautiful love story, but there's some heartbreaking moments, and you just have so much compassion for Rose. You want her to have the best of things, and I cannot wait for volume 2 to come out. A huge shout out to Dad Needs to Talk, because he was the one that told us in that live stream. He said the volume 2 comes out next May. I am here for it. I need it. I need it. I need it. For number 10, this one, I don't know how people are going to react, but I am doing No Longer Heroine. I was super on the fence about picking up this series. I guess it was scanlated or had a lot of scans a few years ago, and so a lot of people have read it. I don't really know anyone that does, but I feel like it is underrated because I don't really know anybody who likes this series. I've only read this first volume. I checked it out at the bookstore, read it, thought it was super funny, and I will say, if you were looking for a shoujo series where you can relate to the heroine for the wrong reasons, this series is it. I feel like when I read shoujo manga, specifically shoujo romance, I'm looking for a heroine who's brave, who's courageous, she's inspiring, she's very admirable, she has qualities that I would love to have or love seeing. No, not for this manga, not for this manga. What is her name? Hattori has, she does these actions where I'm like, this is a little bit too on point, too realistic for a heroine in shoujo manga, because it reflects too much for me personally, the real life in high school. I think it's so very funny. There's not a lot of romance yet, but that's actually part of the story because she feels she is the heroine of this love story, and her best friend Rita right here is the hero, but he doesn't even know that she likes him and that she loves him quite a bit, not just as a friend. And so she is sort of now at the point where she's like, I want to be the heroine of his story, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, I think, to be that heroine. Not like she does savage and bad things or attacks other people like another girl, for an example, but just the things that she says, the expressions that she has is just too on point. This is definitely one of my most anticipated series of like volumes coming out. I cannot wait for volume 2 to release next year. It was a huge surprise for me. So if you're looking for a shoujo romance that is different, where it doesn't even look like the heroine is even gonna get with the guy, this is it. This is it. Maybe that's a little bit twisted, so to speak, and different, but I feel like No Longer Heroine does not fit your typical shoujo mold whatsoever, and just really excited for the second volume. I need to know what she's gonna do to become the heroine of her story. And that, my friends, wraps up my 10 picks of shoujo and josei series that I feel like are really underrated. What are some underrated shoujo and josei romances that you know of because I would love to check them out. You know, those hidden gems are sometimes the best manga around because we're like, this is so good, why is it under the radar? People need to know. So let me know. I would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!